The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Hello, welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Marco Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
Matt Brandenburg.
Hi.
And the author of many great horror, thriller, and comedy novels, Jeff Strand.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to our craziness.
Thank you for joining us.
On our little island.
We have no food, but all we have is heroin, so hope you enjoy.
Well, if there are four of us, we don't have to do the audio cannibalism.
We just have to find the weaker one first, and then the autocannibalism happens with the last one standing.
Right. See, we have options to start. So.
Exactly. It's like that scene in Ravenous. He was licking me.
I don't know why.
With me, but that was really a horrifying moment.
If our audience hasn't pieced it together yet, today's story is Survivor Type by Stephen King, which can be found in his collection Skeleton Crew, or you can watch the really bad visual comic on Shudder. Please read Skeleton Crew. It's some of the much better versions to get into.
So was it just a flashback to all of his times, or was it like just journal entries that were...
It was pretty much journal entries, and they just had like comic panel visuals, and sometimes they're animated.
Yeah, it'd be like a static image of the doctor on the island writing in his journal, and then maybe the seagull would flap its wings a couple times in the sky.
So did they not show any of his past? Because like 90% of the story is about him reminiscing about everything he's done.
No, I don't think they did. It was just
they just mention it in the journal entries.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was just his current time on the island. It was only like 30 minutes, so I mean, there's not a whole lot they could do.
And it's just the whole like journal entries in the story are narrated, so it's just like an audiobook with.
So it's just drawings. Like his pen moving.
Yeah, basically.
Awesome. That's exactly what I want to watch. A static image for 30 minutes.
But before we get into Survivor Type, we like to give kind of a weekly recommendation of some either horror books, TV shows, or movies. Right now, I'm in the middle of two books I'm hoping to finish by next week. One is Slattery Falls by Brennan LeFaro.
Nice.
And which is Brennan's debut. And I gotta say that this is a hell of a debut book. The dread is very top-notch. The pacing is fantastic. The characters feel real, and he's able to get that tension in there to like really kind of work on your anxiety as a reader that makes you kind of afraid to turn the page to see what's going to happen next. I highly recommend it. It's just about these two college kids who become friends, and one of them is into paranormal stuff and introduces the other to his interests, and they break into a haunted museum together only to find out that ghosts are actually real, and they try to find other haunted places to continue their adventures.
So is the museum just a normal museum that's haunted, or is it like a museum of haunted stuff?
It's just a normal museum that's haunted. It's related to like the spy during the Revolutionary War who was executed. And it's just like his family's like home that they turn into a museum. And there's rumors that it's haunted. And they go there one night, they break in, and it turns out it's haunted. This is the first few chapters. It really goes on to other places from there.
Is the museum called Slattery Falls?
No,
is that a town? Or is it a waterfall?
Hasn't come up. I think it's the name of a town, but it hasn't come up in the story yet, to be 100% honest with you. So maybe when I finish, I can answer that question. But right now, I can't.
I will wait for your report next week.
The other that I have been reading is Brand New Dark by Beau Johnson. And if you like crime fiction that doesn't pull any punches, like, this is one of the most brutal books I've ever read in a long fucking time.
Wow.
And it's violence as all hell. It's graphic. It is gritty. It is dark. It is easily one of the best crime books I've read in a while. And they follow, so all of Beau's books are short story collections that deal with a character named Bishop Ryder. And Beau tells Bishop's story out of order. But to give you Bishop's story, he was a police officer once, and he was investigating this local crime boss. And to get him off the case, the crime boss had Bishop's mother murdered, and his daughter disappears. Oh, not his daughter, his sister disappears. And he's later sent a video of his sister being raped to death.
Oh, Jesus.
Which causes Bishop to leave the force, and he becomes a Punisher-like character, tracking down and killing all the criminals in the area to work his way up to this guy and get his revenge.
Oh, wow.
It is dark as fuck. Like, it's really gory. Like, there's tons of slit throats, there's bodies being burned, there's torture. There's, like, this guy's not afraid to get his hands dirty, and he goes as far as he needs to make his revenge the most painful thing it could be.
Sounds intense.
It's really intense. They're all short stories, but they're all also interconnected, and each short story is kind of told out of order. So, like, one short story might take place through the end of his journey. The next short story will be, like, 15 years earlier.
Huh.
The next one could be, like, 5 months before the first story. Then the fourth story could be a continuation of what happened in the first story. And it's all kind of like just his life told out of order. And I think that's a way for Beau just to get most of the character, like, out there and keep things a mystery. But it works pretty well.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been meaning to check him out for a while. He's a good guy. I've interacted with him a few times on Twitter, and his book sounds interesting as all get out. So
yeah.
I've got I think he's got 3 or 4 out. I did get one of them not too long ago, but it's still, unfortunately, in my TBR pile.
He's got some really good title names for some of these stories in the newest one. There's one of them is called Men of the Cloth.
Okay.
The other one is Bowels In, Bowels Out.
Love it.
There's one called Call Me Ishmael. Another is...
No opinion on that title.
Another is Day of Body Parts Past.
That's cool.
So... These are wild stories, and I've been digging them a lot. But that's really all I have got this week.
Well, I didn't say anything there, Matt, because I wasn't sure if Rich was looking for opinions on the title.
You could have laughed. It was a nice Moby Dick reference. But
yeah, I know it's a Moby Dick reference.
I'm a literate one here.
I understood the reference. I got that reference. I just wasn't sure if this was a bit, if we were just going through titles, what was going on here.
It was just perfect. You commented on 2, was silent on the 3rd, and commented on the 4th.
Well, no, I mean, these things happen.
But Mike, what about you?
Well, I was kind of falling where you were last week with kind of being a little burned out on horror, so I did not do anything horror related this week and a half or so. The only thing that I did was I read an advanced copy of Bourdain, the definitive oral biography that was put together by his personal assistant, Laurie Woolever. And this probably fucked me up more than any horror book I could have read at that point.
You know what fucked me up, Mike?
What's that?
NetGalley denied me a copy of it.
Did they? Oh.
Yep.
I think you need to just stop with them.
Yeah, what is your rating on NetGalley? Do you have like
probably
a 0%?
A -%.
Yeah. Negative 50%.
We got to take a look at your bio on there and see what's going on. I think we can fix this. I think you probably just need to
put some reviews in.
Yep, well, that too. Yeah, that would be helpful, I'm sure.
And change my bio of the site I write for.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
And just
I'll fix up with that.
Get a new login and email address.
But anyway, tell us about the book, Mike.
Well, it is a oral biography. So Laurie Woolever went through and interviewed 90-some people that have known Bourdain basically forever. Worked with him, his mother and brother, his ex-wives, the people at 0.0 Productions who filmed and edited all of his TV series, the chefs that he's worked with, personalities at CNN in his later years. And it just goes through and basically covers from day one up through his suicide in France at 61 when he was shooting for Parts Unknown. It is certainly not a hagiography, so they are not trying to sanctify Anthony Bourdain. Like, there are people in here that they talk to who very clearly have had issues and are very blunt on some of their feelings on Bourdain and some of the choices he's made along the way and things he's done to people. So it's a pretty honest and revealing portrait of this man. And one thing that you kind of come away from, like, people are talking about how there's this incredibly thin line between Anthony Bourdain, the person, and Anthony Bourdain, the TV character, and how they were like so very subtly different. And that was kind of the illusion that he was pulling off, is that there was no difference was the illusion, but there were just kind of like these minor tweaks here and there. But for the end, I mean, what really fucked me up were kind of the last few chapters where they're getting into his toxic relationship that he was in and the way his behavior and moods changed as he became more depressive and kind of kowtowed toward his girlfriend a little bit more and bent over backwards to do everything he could to try to satisfy her, including firing one of his longtime cameramen who had been with him for like 20 years because of some minor dispute she got into with the cameraman, and the way that reverberated through the rest of the crew and kind of fucked with everyone, and leading up to tabloid controversies that finally eventually led to his suicide. So it was kind of a pretty dark read to get through at the end there. But overall, I mean, it's a really, really good biography of him as told through the lens of so many different people that knew him over the course of his life. And I mean, I was always a big fan of Bourdain, so I think this is a really, really good read on who he was as a man and as a character.
I didn't read that once I get giving him my hands on it, but it sounds really great.
Yeah, I dug it a lot. I wish he was still with us. You know, I wish we still had more of his writings to be able to read, and I miss that we can't get new books and new TV shows from him.
But we still have the ones he put out and the ones that we can still revisit, which is always a good thing. His memory lives on.
Yes, indeed.
And Matt, what about you?
Well, I was gonna discuss. Well, maybe I still will. I guess we'll keep on this dark path. I read Matt Wildasin's Melancholia a little bit ago, and this came out through Death's Head Press. Came out, I think, in May. And it's also a dark story. It starts right out of the open. Our main character, Sarah, commits suicide, and the rest of the story is this kind of time loop. It's sort of a Groundhog Day type of situation, but she wakes up in this forest, this kind of like never-ending forest, and she's trying to figure stuff out, like how she's in there. Her car is there, and then every once in a while she'll get this countdown from the radio and then blink and wake back up in the same spot. She remembers doing it all, so she's not like, you know, figuring it out from scratch. And so each time she kind of goes a little bit further, figures out a little something else. At one point, she finds a doppelganger in her trunk in which she kills. And then the next time she kind of lets it go and it kind of chases after her. And it's really good. It deals a lot with depression and how you handle that and what kind of leads to that. I don't remember him going into too deep on like what, I mean, like we get an idea of why she did it, but like that's the focus of the story is the after and kind of like how you manage that. And it's really good. He obviously keeps the kind of depressing nature up through it all, and then eventually it kind of turns into something good, a positive kind of acceptance and what you need to do. But he also keeps a lot of attention up with this kind of radio countdown and this kind of creepy woods that slowly turn into something else. So it's a good one. It's pretty short, so it's a fast read on top of that. And yeah, I think it's a great story. I haven't read much of his stuff. This was the first thing I read of his, but I really enjoyed it. He added some really good touches and some really creepy moments and some really touching, kind of just makes you reflect on things and how you can perceive some things and how family can perceive some things and then what you're kind of going through. So definitely worth kind of hunting down, checking out. So Melancholia.
Perfect. And Jeff, you have any you want to throw in?
The only thing I'm reading right now is Nick Cutter's Little Heaven, which I've just started. But I've read
that's a good one.
I've read The Troop and The Deep, so I assume that this is a lighthearted, magical experience that will leave me feeling that the grace is just delightful.
It is the best feel-good movie or best feel-good book since, I don't know, I watched All Dogs Go to Heaven.
I was surprised it was in the horror section instead of the inspirational fiction section. Nothing makes me feel better than a Nick Cutter novel.
The only thing that makes me feel better than a Nick Cutter novel is a Craig Davidson novel.
Nice.
Now, someone listening to this is not going to get the sarcasm. They're saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm feeling a little down. Maybe I'll read the Deep." That'll be it.
We've definitely been keeping on this dark path. That's pretty entertaining.
The Little Heaven is a really good book. It's a nice, fun little romp through the woods.
When did that come out?
I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Not that long.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard much about this one. I know Nick Cutter, I know The Troop, but I don't think I heard much about Little Heaven.
Yeah, I finished The Deep not that long ago, and that is a dark, bleak book.
Little Heaven gets a lot of comparisons to Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, just to give you the vibe of that.
All right, that makes sense then. I'm on board. Because that definitely was nice and fun. Easy read.
Yeah. That was the most uplifting book I've ever read in my life. How are you liking Little Heaven, Jeff?
I have just started it, so I'm liking the first 10 pages.
That's all you need.
That's what we judge books by, right? First 10 pages. So.
Yeah. Let's put the first paragraph. If the first paragraph is trash, you just wasted your money.
This whole giant book. It's always the way I go.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm reading something and the first paragraph already has 3 misspellings, it's like, all right, I'm out. I'm tapping out on this one.
Well, that's different.
That's different.
Oh, my gosh. It's no Killer Flies.
Right.
God.
Oh, man.
Can't get over that.
Well, I hope you like Little Heaven, Jeff. It's quite the experience.
Well, I love Troop and The Deep, so I feel like I'm in good hands.
I'll never forget the first time I read The Troop. Oh, that was...
I still got to read that one.
I feel like after reading Ed Lee, like my tolerance is a bit up when it comes to gross outness. But, like, I read The Troop before I had read anything like as extreme as The Troop before. And there was a couple scenes that had me gagging, like as I was reading it.
Well,
Nice.
Edward Lee has that playful sense of humor where it's like, this is disgusting, but it's fun. It's a joke.
That's true.
And the Troop and The Deep don't have that. This is nihilistic, bleak stuff.
Yeah.
So
With Edward Lee, you're laughing at people getting humped in their head holes. And
Oh, my God. Oh, Ed Lee.
do you guys have anything else you'd like to recommend? Because I'm all tapped out for this week.
Not after that.
I mean, I can say I've gone through 3 of our or I'm halfway through the third one, but of these fun anti-hero hero shows that have been recently out, and which we've kind of all touched on in the past, but I just think it's interesting. I watched Invincible, which was a lot of fun. I finally finished Watchmen this week, and that was a blast in the dark sense. And then I'm starting to
like that David Bowie cover in the soundtrack for Watchmen.
Oh, that was great.
That was perfect.
All of the music in that was just pitch perfect, which is funny, by the way. So the sound, the score, you know, you can listen to that score, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and it's funny because they have some of the sound clips. So like when the Calvary, that first video of theirs with the TikTok, is just, you could just randomly popped up. So I'm like working, and then I just hear their speech, and they're like TikTok, and I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? That's not something you want to listen to by yourself. And then I started The Boys, which I'm quite enjoying. But what I think is really funny is the fact that all of these shows are coming out now. You know, I don't know if it's a response to Marvel movies and shows now, if they're like, let's put out these really dark anti-hero, like heroes are not perfect, and in fact they're all evil, awful people. So I enjoy that like commentary, because I mean, come on, Invincible. It's just,
I mean, I don't think Invincible is fully like heroes are bad though. Like,
no, I guess that's
Omni-Man's
fair.
clearly a bad guy, but like Mark is trying his best to be like a good hero. And all the heroes the Omni-Man murdered in the first episode were good heroes.
Fair.
But like the replacements are all kind of flawed and trying to overcome their flaws and come together. But Omni-Man's like the biggest piece of shit.
I'll rephrase it. Our Superman type characters are the evil jerks. I mean, I'm nowhere close finished with The Boys, but their basic Homelander Superman type character is psycho.
Mike, you've read the Boys comics, right?
I have not. I actually looked into it, but there's a lot of them, and I figured the cost would be a lot. So
if you have a library account, your library should have access to Hoopla. A lot of libraries do.
Yes.
And all the Boys comics are on Hoopla.
Okay, well then I will check that out, because yes, I'm digging it.
If you've read The Boys, the next arc of the comic they're covering in the show is Herogasm. And the director has said he's not going to tone down Herogasm.
Oh, God.
Which, if you've read The Boys, you know that's one of the most fucked up arcs there is in the comics. So
amazing. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, that's all I wanted to throw in there.
All right. Well, I think it's time for us to get into our stash of heroin and chill out on an island where we can't even catch a bird to eat, with Survivor Type by Stephen King. So, Jeff, why did you choose this story out of all the King stories to cover?
Well, I was trying to come up with something much more obscure, and then I started, okay, maybe not so obscure. You know, what's a good McCammon story to cover? But, you know, Survivor Type, there's a lot to say about it. So it's a story that I really had only read once when I was in high school, and it is still with me. So it's like, you know, if I was going to pick any Stephen King story, this was the one. And I figured, you know, I can talk about cannibalism for however long. So.
Yeah.
To be fair, once is really all you need to read for Survivor Type. It just kind of sticks in your head after you finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny that it hasn't come out yet, but we covered what was it, Richard Lehman's Island, and I think it's interesting. We've covered two stories that are sort of follow the basic premise of being on an island and a character writing a journal. One doesn't turn out so well. The other one, I guess, doesn't turn out so well for everybody else.
Yeah, these are vastly different island getaway scenarios.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting concept of being on an island by yourself. Well, maybe not always by yourself, but writing a journal. I think that's a funny, I like that kind of play on the whole message in a bottle kind of thing.
And arguably Layman's crew, they're on a much better island. If you're going to be stuck on an island, theirs is the one to be on.
Seriously.
This guy's is like a little spit of land that you could literally spit over.
Yeah.
And you just have rocks.
Yeah, he doesn't have much in the way of like territory to hide out in. It doesn't seem like there's much in the way of shelter. Yeah, if I have to be stuck on a literary horror island, I'm going with Layman's The Island.
That's fair.
Especially if you're the guy writing in the journal.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So our journal writer is named Richard Pine. And he is quite the character.
Yeah. Not a good dude.
No. I mean, he's a talented dude.
Oh, very talented.
Yes.
But he's not a good
surgeon
dude.
for sure.
Best surgeon in the biz.
Oh, this guy. He like figured it out.
If the biz is the mafia.
Yes. But not. It's funny. I like that he he always, out of everything he shares, because he eventually shares everything, but he skirts around being officially part of the mafia.
There is no mafia.
Yes. He's just like, oh, I go back to Little Italy, and I have people that can press on to other people, but I'm not part of the mafia.
I know some guys, you know some guys, you know some guys.
Yes.
Yeah, Stephen King goes out of his way to not make you think, oh, this poor guy having to eat himself.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad this guy has to cut off his foot. There's some cartilage in there that's good to chew on.
Yeah, it's not one of those where I'm feeling any sympathy for the protagonist, but it still is one of those stories that just gives me the squiggles, you know? Like, even though I've read it before, and the first time around was an uncomfortable read, but even still going back to it again after all these years and knowing what was coming, it's still like, ooh, God, yeah. I'm just kind of like curling up on myself on the couch reading this thing.
And you know what's awesome? I mean, even like, I know we haven't gotten too deep into it, but the fact that King also kind of skirts around that whole process. You don't ever actually, like, you hear about it tangentially, but you never actually see, our character never writes in the journal, I hacked off my leg and ate it. He just writes, I took care of the foot and and I'm not hungry anymore. Or that there's like a little bit later on, he's just like, I'm missing my leg from the knee down, and it doesn't even say, and so I thought that was a really nice, like, again, talking about some of the other authors we've discussed and like where they show. King is great at not showing these things, but just letting your imagination go, okay, this guy just started eating.
Yeah. It's not like the blood ran down my chin as my teeth sunk into my succulent ankle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, the imagination is definitely your own worst enemy on this one. It's very much.
But, he makes it very clear what is happening. It's not like, well, maybe he didn't know he ate his foot.
Yeah.
I took off the other leg today.
Yeah, which I thought was awesome because it is funny. Like when you're the first like half of it, and even kind of near up to the end, he's really focused on what got him here and just like everything like that. And then you just get these little touches of, oh, I'm so hungry, or I don't think I can. I need to survive. I'm a survivor, and then slowly you get into full on just like I just keep eating myself.
And at that point, it's kind of like, well, he's just surviving in the hopes that he'll get off the island. Whereas if it were me, I'd be like, you know what? I'm out. I'm just going to die. I'll just lie down and wait for the end. Maybe I'll get a seagull. Maybe I won't. Maybe the salmonella from eating raw seagull will kill me. Maybe I'll luck out.
Well, and it's funny because he talks at first about prosthetics and all these things, but then slowly as he's using all that heroin, you're like, even if some miracle you can get back to the country, all that heroin, somebody's gonna kill you for what you do.
He snorted up all the product we were gonna sell.
Oh, right. So you're like, almost the island is better for him at this point.
Yeah. If he makes it back, he's going to be indebted to the mob, and he's going to be a heroin addict, so he's going to have to go into treatment.
Yes.
Well, that'll be the premise for Survivor Type the series.
Yeah.
Right.
As a worm.
He thought that eating his legs was bad, but now it's worse.
I just love like some of how he ends the journal entries. Like I'm going back to the beginning when he's talking about like January 28th. While I've eaten, if you can call that eating. And he talks about like the gull that he killed, and he just goes, "Do gulls have brains in any quantity? Are they edible?"
Yeah.
We never do find out.
Nope. He quickly turns. Which I think is so I guess to like lay it out for people who haven't read it, it's journal entries. He's trapped on an island that literally is just rocks and sand. And he is a surgeon, and we kind of get his past of growing up in Little Italy and hating his parents, doing everything he can to make money so he doesn't have to be with them anymore. He goes to medical school, and he kind of continues this racket of running bets and starting to sell prescription pads, and it slowly progresses to him getting in trouble. So then he needs to make more money. And as you do in this case, you go to, I think, Saigon to get heroin.
As you do.
And then his ship blows up mysteriously, which I don't know if we want to get. Why does cruise ship blow up? Was that a purposeful thing, or was that just a random happy accident?
I think it was just a way to get this guy on the island.
Yeah. Like, I thought that, but then I started wondering, I'm like, well, what if he's like muscling in on somebody else's territory and they know he's here, and so they don't care, and they're going to get him off the stop selling heroin? Or is that too deep?
I mean,
I just blew all of your minds. The story is way deeper than you think. There's a whole mob background of people blowing up his ship.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? Like, they did that to the heroin dealer's wife, right? Like, because he was fond of pulling pranks on
I love that.
And giving them, like, talcum powder with bleach instead of heroin, so they blew up his wife, and suddenly he got a lot less jokey with So, yeah, I mean, there's room to maneuver with that idea. For me personally, I think King just wanted to write a story of autocannibalism of this guy on an island and needed a way to get him there. And that's his boat blew up. Good enough.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't know. I like kind of playing because like you get, again, when he's little, I mean, he's running he sells newspapers, but then he's also running bets. And then as that kind of progresses, he even gets a bully was a bully on the football team that he played on. He gets the bully beat up by paying somebody else to beat him up. So you kind of like start getting this progression of him making all these deals. Again, he changes his last name. It's, I think, Prezzetti to Pine because he doesn't want to be tied to Little Italy, but he keeps going back to Little Italy, and his deals get bigger and bigger to the point of like him having to like put pressure or get somebody to put pressure on, I think it was like state representatives, so he could get his a shady practice up. So you kind of get all these like little touches, and you're probably right, Mike, that King just wanted to get him on the island, but it's kind of fun to see like, could there have been a little bit more to it?
Yeah, there definitely could have been.
That'll all be in the TV series.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah, episode 4 will be the backstory that starts. We cut to the mob people setting the explosives.
I love how there's like a whole Star Wars shared universe for this thing. Like, we're not going to explain it in this story. You got to watch this other thing.
Wait. So what if this mob has a connection to the mob that used the Overlook Hotel in the 1920s back to make it like a Stephen King mob universe connection thing? The bomb to the boat was actually sent by the mob ghost at the Overlook because they were trying to get back at the people who stabbed them in the back and killed them at the Overlook, which is the mob that's alive that our doctor works for.
It could
Just
be.
when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
See, Stephen King is listening to this right now. See, they figured it all out.
He's already written 800 pages since this podcast began.
He totally. That's amazing. Hey, we know he does these multi-connected stories, so this This is totally. It's gonna be part of some Randall Flagg thing, right? You know?
I mean, all things.
Cause a wheel.
Yeah, he was in New York. It could have totally been tied to that. Come on.
Oh yeah, it could have been. Maybe he's found a rose in a parking lot.
And isn't there something he says about the crab? He does some like crazy like rhyme that are like just random words, but it could have been those crabs from was it The Drawing of Three?
Dadachum Dadachuk.
Yes, actually, I think it's exactly what they say. Oh my God, let me look. I think
Take that, Edward Lorne. We are unlocking the secrets right here
of Stephen King. We got it. I do love that the one guy, like, they all know that the one heroin guy does jokes. They're like, well, this is why you gotta go to the other guy to check, because he just does these fun little jokes. It's like, why would they let him do it for that long? Just
Vietnam,
craziness.
Matt, forget it.
It's Vietnam. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
It's Chinatown.
Jeff is so pissed we've wasted his morning with this.
No, I thought the discussions would be, man, eating your leg is gross.
We'll get there. Oh, man.
No, this is far more in depth than I would have.
What I do. I go to the skier part and I just pull it apart till it's nothing.
Yeah.
This is what Matt always
a 10-page
does.
story. We can knock this out in 10 minutes. I'll be done. It's like, oh shit, now they're pulling out like the whole fucking library of King. Overlook Hotel, what the fuck?
I'm telling you, there's more to it. There's totally
Get
is.
my Shining book out and check these like
Everyone
underlines I made 5 years ago.
Now King plays the long game.
Yeah. we're totally onto it. There was somebody on that ship that's tied to another one of his stories that we just don't know about. I didn't think it was funny that all the people on the ship were like absolutely crazy pants. It's like a guy. I mean, like, and I get you have no eyes, so you're like, help me, I can't see. But like, even the sailor that was gonna help him get the ship down, like, gets his hand torn off, and it's just like, what is happening? Like, I get a bomb explosion, everyone's getting a little wild, but like, still.
Well, I mean, they're probably panicking if their ship is blowing up, Matt.
They should have done like our guy did and went to the class that tells you what to do. I mean, he proves time and time again that he is a survivor, right? He's a survivor type. That first paragraph of how long do you want to survive, and he wants to survive. And so he's the guy that like pays attention to all of the warnings.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this guy's connected. He's got his deal figured out.
Yes, I did like I think that's like fun to like show like everything he can, and then it just gets to this point of like he just gives it all up and how quick he just loses himself. And maybe that's the heroin, but just even the fact like he made it clear for the first couple days he's like, I'm not going to touch the heroin, and then slowly he does it, and then he keeps doing it, and he's like, I lost like 3 days. It's even just a question mark. I thought that was fun in the journal entry.
I love that. The storm comes through. He has put up this help sign.
Yes.
And the storm has washed it away. And he didn't notice until like 3 days later because he's been so stoned out of his mind.
That was amazing. It's funny, like I mean, I guess it makes sense if you're cutting off your foot. What else are you going to do with it? Except eat it.
Name it Wilson. I don't know.
I mean, could have used it as bait, right? Try to catch some more crabs or possibly fish.
That's a bad idea. I'll use a toe.
Yeah.
Fish. Grouper love toe. So
it's funny because like so he eats the seagull raw, and I that sounded pretty gross. I mean, eating a body part is gross too, but like I don't know, that first gull eating, I was like, or he eats a spider, that was messed up.
I mean, that's
protein,
not the
dude.
least messed up thing that he does in this story.
No,
Yeah.
I was cool with everything else except for eating a spider.
It's protein.
Eating the seagulls where I'd be. I was like, nope, I'm not a survivor type.
Yeah, that's what I was
Out
about.
into the ocean, let the sea take me.
Yes. Well, it's so like he had a lifeboat, right? Or no, the lifeboat
It
tore
sank.
up.
Yeah, there was a part of the storm tore out the bottom of the boat, so
Yeah.
he couldn't get anywhere anyway.
Because I was wondering about that. That and like he again, like you kind of get the idea of this island, and then when he starts talking about eating the gull raw, you're like, okay, he definitely has no wood, but he has something to write help, and then eventually he gets wood from the boat, which was nice because then he could cook his legs. So did he eat all of his body parts at the end?
Pretty much.
Was he just a worm?
Well, no, by the end, he's lost his hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got rid of his legs, his earlobes, and one hand after the whole idea of, I have to protect my hands at all costs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I might go back and be a surgeon again. You never know. Let's be upbeat.
Dr. Ironsides.
I do love, like, I'm on the February 5th entry, and I just love how he builds up to, like, eating himself. And he's like, wait, I haven't told you I had nothing to eat for 4 days, and that the only help I could look to in the matter of replenishing my sap vitality was my own body? Above all, haven't I told you over and over that survival is business of the mind, the superior mind? I won't justify myself by saying you would have done the same thing. First of all, you're probably not a surgeon. Even if you knew the mechanics of amputation, you might have botched the job so badly you would have bled to death anyway. And even if you had lived through the operation and the shock trauma, the thought might have never have entered your preconditioned head. Never mind. No one has to know. My last act before leaving the island will be to destroy this book. I was very careful. I washed it thoroughly before I ate it. And then the next entry is just, the pain from the stump has been bad.
Yeah. I did like that. Like he learned a little bit when talking about like the itching. He's like, oh, I thought my patients were just wimps, but now I know.
Well, the part that really gets me is he had to cut his foot off because it was broken, and presumably there was an infection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what part of the foot he ate, because I'm thinking infected meat is probably not going to be too long-term healthy.
I mean, he's also very stoned on heroin at that point, too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He
he
could
doesn't
just
last that long. It's not a continuity error. He goes insane pretty quickly after eating his own foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. It does. He just kind
I'm
of
pretty
goes.
sure he got sepsis.
If it had been a healthy foot, maybe he'd be alive to this day.
That's true. Just with a cool little like robot foot.
Because he did wash it thoroughly. He did not say he cooked it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it took him a while before he could start cooking his legs.
Yeah, because he wasn't able to cook the seagull either. I think even the crab he had to eat raw, if I recall correctly.
Yep. Yeah. So he ate everything he could eat raw, except for his
no,
body.
he did get to roast the crab.
He did get a roasted crab.
Yeah.
Okay.
Found a crab, killed it, and roasted over a small fire. Tonight, I could almost believe in God again. That's where you think, oh, okay, this is headed for a happy ending.
Fool you.
Or what was it, the part when he wrote down the McDonald's song?
Yes.
McDonald's jingle.
I love that. Or just like he goes on a rant of all the food that he wants to eat, and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the McDonald's jingle's when he can't get the dates anymore, so it's just Feb.
Yeah. February. Yeah. And then after it's like
then
Feba.
Feba, then FE/40 question mark, and then
Just pretend it's cold roast beef. Cold roast beef. Cold roast beef.
Oh my God. It's like, I mean, he's at the point now. I mean, he has to keep at least one hand. Otherwise, how is he going to cut himself? Or is he just going to start chomping?
Yeah. And that imagery at the end is just unbelievable, right? Like that's going to be, that is seared into my memory forever, of this image of this emaciated guy who has cut off his legs and an arm and just kind of like pulling himself across the island with one hand. Just so skeezy.
And I love that he's trying to at that point he's just like, what hand? I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna eat a hand. Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm a survivor.
Yes, it made me think of the Creep Show when they were Ted Danson, and he's like, I can survive a long time. Or it was Leslie Nielsen at that point. I kept thinking of that, or I kept thinking of there's a Simpsons Itchy and Scratchy thing where Itchy keeps eating his own stomach and it keeps popping back out, and so he just keeps eating. I kept thinking about that part. I'm like, oh well, he's kind of like possibly self-regenerating, and he can just keep eating himself. I mean, like, how much meat can you get from an earlobe? Can't be much.
Well, and by then, too, how starved to death is he to begin with? Like, he notes early on that, like, within just a handful of days, he's so dehydrated, he's lost 25 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So he can start drinking his blood.
He's all sunburned to hell and back, and it's just...
I know about that. Like, because he took his shirt off to do it as a bandage. I was like, oh, I get you need a bandage, but man, you are going to be in bad business soon. Or when he just stands out in the water. I think he was going to try to catch a fish, but
well, he was trying to catch a fish, and then he tried to catch a seagull that he hit with a rock, and it was in midair, landed in the water. That
was a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it is disappointing that it went out in the water. I mean, I guess, he was just screwed.
Then it swam away just to taunt him.
Yeah, because that's what birds do. I was waiting for the birds to be like a whole bunch of them, and that they were going to eat him. So
can I say something I'm impressed about the surgeon with?
Maybe.
How he can still write after how much heroin he snorted.
I know. I kept thinking about that. I was like, "Oh man, he is doing a lot of heroin." Like, he can cut pretty good even on heroin. Because doesn't he just do heroin at one point to cut himself instead of like
he does heroin before cutting off his foot.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, he passed out for a few hours and then woke up and cut off his foot.
Yeah, the journal's pretty good. There may have been some creative license on Stephen King's part.
Right. Well, this is what was only recovered and transcribed from.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I wonder if somebody did find this.
I mean, some of the Edred's, like, I don't know, just some of the things he says are really good to stick with you. With like Feb 17th ? Yeah. Took off my leg at the knee, but lost a lot of blood. Pain excruciating in spite of heroin. Shock trauma would have killed a lesser man. Let me answer with the question: how badly does a patient want to survive? How badly does a patient want to live?
Ooh.
The answer pretty damn bad.
Yeah, right.
He's no quitter.
No, he is not.
And it's like funny too, where he's like, a head attached to a torso dragging itself along the sand by the elbows, a crab, a stoned crab. Isn't that what they call themselves now? Hey man, I'm just a poor stoned crab. Can you spare me a dime?
One of the lines I love is, they say you are what you eat, and if so, I haven't changed a bit.
Yeah, right. Oh, that was perfect.
It really gets like King's sense of humor like down in the story too.
You know, I didn't look. Did he do story notes for this?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Does he? What does he say? Anything good?
Walter never would have wrote something like this, huh?
Oh, God. Of course. Oh, King.
Yeah, it was just, he was thinking about cannibalism one day, and then he thought, could you survive on yourself? And his neighbor was a retired surgeon, and his neighbor said, yeah, actually you could.
I mean, the whole note here says, I'll read the whole thing, but it says, I got to thinking about cannibalism one day because that's the sort of thing guys like me sometimes think about, and my muse once more evacuated its magic bowels on my head. I know how gross that sounds, but it's the best metaphor I know. inelegant or not. And believe me when I tell you, I'd give that little Fornet X-Lax if he wanted it. Anyway,
This was like pure Coke King, right?
Yeah, but this is cocaine era King.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, I started to wonder if a person could eat himself, and if so, how much could he eat before the inevitable happened? The idea was so utterly and perfectly revolting that I, too, overwrought with delight to do more than think about it for days. I was reluctant to write it down because I thought I could only fuck it up. Finally, when my wife asked me what I was laughing at one day, we were eating hamburgers on the back deck, I decided I ought to at least take it for a test drive. We were living in Bridgeton at the time. I spent an hour or so talking with Ralph Drews, the retired doctor next door, although he looked doubtful at first. The year before, in pursuit of another story, I had asked him if he thought it was possible for a man to swallow a cat. He finally agreed that a guy could subsist on himself for quite a while, like everything else which is material. He pointed out the human body is just stored energy. I asked him, but what about the repeated shock of the amputations? The answer he gave me is with very few changes the first paragraph of the story. I guess Faulkner would have never written anything like this, huh? Oh, well.
God damn it. Oh, King. So can a person survive eating a whole cat?
He doesn't say in that one.
I guess you'd have to chop it up first. So
yeah,
there is that. I kept thinking about the fact that, a whole leg is a lot, and he doesn't really have a fridge, so I guess he had to eat it pretty fast. Because, you think about, all the survival-type stories you hear and how it's always kind of you gotta parse out your stuff so you can make it last longer. And so then I was thinking that, too. I was like, man, if he chops off a whole leg and eats all of that, I guess that would be a lot, but you'd want it to last a little bit longer. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it would rot, so no leftovers for him.
Which then it's well, why don't you just do it in I think at the end when he's talking about fingers, I was like, that makes a little bit more sense. Even though there's probably not a lot of meat in your fingers, less just like your ear lobes. But, if you do one at a time, that could maybe last you a little bit longer.
If he doesn't eat all the gristle, he doesn't get his dessert.
This is definitely one of those instances where you don't want to bite off more than you can chew.
Hey-o. And I guess he could drink the blood because, still, I'm guessing he's in the ocean, so he can't drink salt water. So even eating, I don't know how much water he's getting.
See, he should have strained the water, got the salt, and then he could have, preserved some jerky.
Exactly. He just didn't read enough of fantasy novels. They always are just eating salted meat. So now I know what to do if I'm trapped in an island. First, I need to get a lot of heroin, and then I need to have a sharp knife.
And salt your leg if you can.
And salt my leg, exactly. You could have quite the feast with the crab and some of your meat and some salt. It's perfect. It's a good plan. Oh my gosh, this was a great story.
It's a really fun one. It's one of my favorite 80s era King short stories. My favorite's the Jaunts. I just love the Jaunts.
I don't think I've read that.
Yeah, Survivor Type is definitely one of my favorites, and it's it definitely sticks with you. You only have to read it once, really, and it just stays with you forever after that.
Well, it's a great character piece outside of the whole cannibalism thing. He's an interesting character even without the gross out.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I like because it's that first long chunk of it's just about how this guy just survived and made his way, and you get what he's going to do, but yeah, it's nice to kind of get into this concept of selling prescription pads and just how this hospital that he worked at, even if he wasn't, it sounds like everybody was stealing prescriptions.
Yeah, it sounded like that drug room was a real mess.
He's a really engaging narrator. So, when you get to the end and he's just writing gibberish, it has a lot more impact.
King also did this in another story that I also found to be just as effective. But in the end of the whole mess, I thought he did a great job. No, so autocannibalism, but just the deterioration of the main character's mental state through journal entries. I thought like that was handled well, and the end of the whole mess too.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that the one where it just the journal kind of he gets like less and less coherent?
Yeah, it's the one where like his brother, it opens up with him killing his brother, and it revealed that like his brother has found this town in Texas that has never had one fight or one murder, and he realizes the town's so peaceful because of chemicals in the water, and he mass distributes the town water because he wants to bring about world peace. And a side effect of this water is it brings about early onset Alzheimer's, and everyone in the world gets Alzheimer's and dies. And it ends with the main character like speaking gibberish because Alzheimer's is catching on to him as well.
Nice. Yeah, I was trying to think like it's one thing I think I've brought up before for another King story where he likes to kind of play with similar concepts. So I was trying to wonder if he has written anything else with autocannibalism in it, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No, I think he has the definitive document on that subject.
I don't think he needs to revisit autocannibalism. This story pretty much has it down.
I don't know. We proved that he could go into bigger deal with this thing.
I mean, he could turn it into a novel involving the mafia and the Overlook Hotel, and maybe the hotel room in 1408 gets involved, and Flag is the one that's delivering the bomb, and next thing you know, the gunslinger shows up on the island and tries to save the guy.
I mean, like, he had quite the plan on getting this heroin into the U.S. I mean, like, they were going to drop it in the water and somebody was going to go find it and bring it in. And it was just, and it wasn't even going to be him. He was going to just pay some cook to do it. It was, he had
a diver who was.
Yeah. I did have to laugh because I think it's the timing, the era, because this was mid 80s. And he talked about it was like only $45,000 worth of heroin, which I think in today's standards, you kind of like know people are dealing in millions of dollars of drugs and everything. So I was like, oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, it's inflation, too.
True. Fair point. Heroin inflation.
Things were cheaper in the 80s.
Yes. Including yes it was. I was thinking about, he talked about like the old ladies getting high on Febreze. Oh, this was something else. Well, this was a fun one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And if Paramount Plus ever wants to do a TV show, give us a ring.
Yeah,
hit us up.
It's all in the writer's room.
That's right.
I mean, broken down the story.
It'd be like this whole Breaking Bad kind of thing, you know?
So I have a question. What do you think? What do you think the theme of this story is? Don't eat yourself or heroin bad?
I think the theme is what do you do to survive?
How far would you push yourself to survive?
Yes.
You can accomplish anything if you believe in yourself.
If you can believe in yourself, you can even eat your own body.
Yes.
You gotta want it.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Gotta need it.
You know, and the opening of the show could be this like worm human rolling around on the island, and then it jumps back. I think that would be the opening, because like he's clearly going to be surviving for a while, and he's just going to be this weird worm creature.
Yeah.
Well, if it takes place in present day, it could be dictation software, so he can tell his story.
Yes.
Yeah, you could start off with like the worm man crawling around the island, and then do like the record screech. So you're probably wondering how I got here.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. Let me tell you about.
We could have like. It's Always in Philadelphia opening card. I will not eat myself. The surgeon eats himself.
Yes. The surgeon learns his legs taste good.
Now I think we're just getting silly.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to go with like a Parker Lewis Can't Lose reboot, but
I love it. That'd be fun. And it's like this funny romp, and then every once in a while we cut back to him just eating fingers.
Yeah, you can do a flashback of him planning out the drug deal, and he's going to throw it. He's going to hire the cook to throw it overboard with a flare for the diver to get it, and he can synchronize their swatches. I think
like a whole Ocean's 11 thing, and then it just cuts to this like him just chomping away on his foot.
So things didn't go quite as planned.
Or did they? They're going to start a race of worm people.
So you're wondering why my nose is in this bag of heroin. Well, let me tell you.
Amazing. I love it. I think we got a plan. Steven, call us. At this point, we'll just call him Steve. I mean, we're
Stevie. Let's call him Stevie.
Stevie K.
Stevie K. Listen here, baby. Got a story for you.
We'll do lunch.
We'll do TikTok videos. It'll be great.
Have your people call my people.
Steak, talk you up.
I think we're done. Awesome. So that was Stephen King.
Yep. We got very silly there. But no, honestly, this is a really good short story.
Yes.
On behalf of the crew here, Jeff, I'm sorry for all of this.
No, this is what I wanted when I picked the autocannibalism story.
I mean, you do not pick the autocannibalism story and don't expect things to get silly.
Yeah.
This is true.
I didn't say, well, let's discuss Shirley Jackson.
Let's discuss the lottery and talk about, I don't know, you can't make too many jokes about the lottery.
I mean, I could find something, but I probably shouldn't.
You know, when you pick a story that the final line is ladyfingers, they taste just like ladyfingers. You know where the discussion is headed.
Oh my God, that was perfect. That's such a crazy line.
It is a really great final line.
I mean, like, you could really unpack it. Is he saying he has lady-type fingers? Or did he find somebody else and was eating them? Like, is that a future story? There's a lot.
It could have been another corpse washed up, and it was the one that was on the ship. And
exactly. I mean, there was a lot of people on that cruise ship. Somebody could have fell on that island with him.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a story where a journal entry just don't care but don't have to, but how can I tie off the femoral artery that high up? It's as big as a fucking turnpike up here.
Yes.
But somehow I've marked across the top of the thigh, the part that is still meaty. I made the mark with this pencil. Wish I could stop drooling. Then you deserve a break today, so get up and get away to McDonald's. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, pickles, onions on the sesame seed bun. D-D-D-Dun-da-dee.
And you know he's really lost it because he gets the McDonald's jingle wrong. It's 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions.
Yes.
That's a subtle clue to the state of his mind.
Oh my God, I can just love it. King is sitting there. He's like, they'll all understand now.
You think of this one word is the key.
It's the key to unlocking it all. Oh my gosh, that jingle. I remember that.
I mean,
the tie-in marketing
story,
promotional options are staggering.
Oh yeah, ladyfingers, McDonald's.
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
That's messed up. Too far. Too far.
This is such a fun story, though. Like, I don't know. I feel like when King has a really fun story, it's just hits all the right notes. Like, I love King's sense of humor when he gets really playful and fucked up. And I feel like Survivor Type is like peak King in that aspect.
Yeah, it's a real fun story to go through.
Nothing says fun for the whole family like some autocannibalism.
Although, honestly, my favorite part is where he hires the guy to take out his bully and it's like, I'll give you $10 each tooth you bring me.
Yes, that was awesome.
The guy comes back with 6 teeth.
That was a nice touch. Well, this was a good one. I think this is a good suggestion.
Thank you for suggesting this one, Jeff.
Absolutely.
It also reminds us, like, we should cover more King on this podcast, but it's nice breaking King apart and kind of covering smaller authors or more independent stuff, but our King conversations are always really fun.
Yes, they are entertaining. He's a fun guy.
He has some really weird tropes in his stories that, like, there's always like the one person who gets so scared their hair turns white.
Yeah. I mean, if you find something good, stick with it.
That's true. But no, thank you for choosing this one, Jeff. It was a lot of fun.
All right.
And before we wrap everything up, are there any books you have coming up that you like to promote, or anything you want to tell our audience about?
I always have new stuff coming out, so they can go to www.jeffstrand.com and get all the latest updates.
Nice.
Perfect.
Any recipes for ladyfingers?
No, you just eat them raw. That's the survivor type way.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jeff. Also, you mentioned your website, but is there anywhere else that our listeners can get in touch with you?
They can find me on Twitter at Jeff Strand. They can find me on Instagram at Jeff Strand Author. And I'm on Facebook as also Jeff Strand Author.
Awesome. And Matt, what about you?
I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Mike?
You can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rudy53088. And next week we'll be discussing Wet Work by Philip Nutman. So be prepared for another wild discussion. Because that book goes places.
Lots of zombie places.
Lots of zombie places.
Sort of zombies.
They're zombies.
Yeah.
This is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.
Hey, everybody, it's Kevin Goatee.
It's Kevin Israel.
And you're listening to Gutting the Sacred Cow on the Project Entertainment Network. Hey, Kevin, what exactly is Gutting the Sacred Cow?
Gutting the Sacred Cow is a podcast where we invite comedians and talented people every episode to come on and trash a movie that you probably love or someone you know loves.
That's right. Our guests have trashed such films as Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Gone with the Wind, Grease, even Star Wars. Can you imagine the balls on that guy? Did he succeed?
I cannot.
Yeah, well, listen and you'll find out. But this is Kevin Goatee and Kevin Israel for Gutting the Sacred Cow. This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.